Welcome to another episode of Life and Times with Tub City. I got head coach Drew Dallas of the Hutchinson Blue Dragons, one of the best schools in the country. I got my notes here, a little bit about your bio. 4 seasons, 38-4 record, 2-time Jayhawk Conference champs, KJCCC playoff champs, KJCCC Coach of the Year, NJCAA Coach of the Year, 2 national champ game appearances, and 1 national championship in 4 years, man. That's pretty big. Thanks for coming on the show.
Yeah, excited to be here.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming back to Hutch, man. Pretty cool. We're in this weight room first time.
Yeah.
We worked together. You were in charge of running this thing with the guys. So
Yeah.
Spent a lot of time in here with you, getting after it and pushing these guys. So it's good to have you back.
Man, thank you. Thank you for having me back. Thank you for doing the interview. You started, well, before I start the real interview, we have something in common. We're both Tigers.
Fort Hays State,
Fort Hays State,
yep.
go
Fort Hays
Tigers.
State. Yep.
We're actually planning a trip to go back to Oktoberfest. I haven't been back, but all the guys that I play with, we're trying to go back. That's pretty cool. What was your experience as a Tiger?
Loved it in Hays.
Okay.
Loved it in Hays. I thought great college town.
Everybody loved it.
Probably experienced Oktoberfest maybe a little too much back then, but met my wife there. So
really,
yeah,
okay,
that was obviously pretty important. So glad I ended up there right out of high school and spent 3 good years there. Didn't finish my career there. Ended up transferring back to home and played at Kansas Wesleyan for my dad. But enjoyed the time. Met a lot of really good people out there. Enjoyed the coaches out there. A lot of connections. Yeah. That still work through today, and pretty cool little spot.
Cool. You're from Salina.
Salina, Kansas.
Yeah.
Went to Salina Central High School. Moved around a little bit. Dad was a head college football coach.
Okay.
Kind of grew up in Ottawa, Kansas through elementary school.
Really.
Got to Salina in junior high into elementary school, and really was fortunate enough to just move into the Salina Central District. If you know anything about Kansas high school football back in those days, it was really, really good football. Was Central and the South a rival back at those times? Big time. Big time. And I think it was like 10 years straight kind of in that era where, one of those 2 schools played in the state championship game in 5A.
Yeah.
And was able to experience 2 of them as a player my sophomore and junior year.
Really?
Win in state, and then lost to Salina South senior year in the semifinals, so still have scars from that. But no, that era of football growing up in Salina was really special. There were some great high school coaches, Marvin Diener, Ken Stonebreaker, and Hall of Fame guys, and so just fortunate, to move there during that time and go through that level of program coming in high school, and played with some really good players, and saw a lot of guys growing up playing. Terrence Newman, Salina Central product. And,
I didn't know that.
Yeah, moved on to K-State and the Cowboys. So
K-State is definitely better than KU. Just throwing a shot.
Throwing shots.
Yeah. Did you know you wanted to be a coach?
Yeah, just growing up and being around it all the time. I mean, like my babysitter growing up in elementary school in Ottawa, Kansas, was going to Dad's practices across the street. So really lucky, I guess, at that point in time when we moved to Ottawa, we lived right across the street from the college. So like I could take a football and throw it from the front yard and right over the visiting bleachers that weren't very tall and landed on the field, So we were over there all the time, and every day in the fall, you just knew after school you're going straight to practice. So growing up around it, I guess, and always being around those guys, the players, and getting to know them outside of just seeing them play on game day was pretty special. Yeah. Like always shagging punts and kicks from the kickers, and being that extra hand just as an elementary school kid, and being around it was really special and fun. And so kind of always knew that was what I wanted to do, and then just enjoyed playing the game. And so as I grew with it, started to love the X's and O's and all that stuff, and the relationships, and so just once I got into high school, college, knew that was what I wanted to do, and fortunate enough that it's worked out the way it has.
So you go to Hays, then you go to Kansas Wesleyan. What was it like playing for your dad?
Well, I mean, it was tough. You know, you always kind of think, hey, being a coach's son's easy, or,
Yeah.
I mean, the people that know it. I mean, it's a lot harder, you know, and, you know, we weren't living in the same house like a high school kid and a high school coach, but like I could get away and go back to the dorms or my house, you know, and he went to his house after practice. So there was still a little bit of distance there, you know, at the college level, but, you know, it wasn't always easy because you just had tendencies to, hey, it was easier for me to say something under my breath if I didn't agree with it, or he was ripping my butt, or, you know, things like that. So I think you know, it was pretty special when you look back at it, and you really enjoyed those times and being part of it. But I think it was even harder. I coached for him for 2 years when I got into coaching. So
yeah, you did.
You know, right after I got done playing, spent 2 years there at Kansas Wesleyan coaching quarterbacks, receivers, and you know, coaching for him was a completely different level. You know, and now it wasn't a coach-player relationship.
It's more accountability.
He was my boss. He was my dad. Like, we'd sit in a meeting room, you know, and he wouldn't be afraid to rip you in front of everybody else. And you had to sit there and take it, you know, because he had the power to fire you.
So some of those, let's say, disagreements, do they come back to haunt you now that you're a head coach?
No, I mean, there was just a lot of lessons learned. You know,
Gotcha.
I remember, you know, one of the very first things I learned sitting in a staff meeting and having a disagreement is like, hey, gives me something to do, and you write it down on the notebook, right? And then you go to your office and you start doing something else and forget, and then like doesn't get done right away, you know? And like, I mean, now that's one of the first things, you know, if I write something down in a meeting room, you know, I'm taking it back. I'm trying to get it done ASAP so I don't forget and get moving on something else. But, you know, you look back at it and you appreciate it. Like, there was hard times, you know, but not really in the grand scheme of things. It was just in the moment. And so I think when you look back at it, you really appreciate those lessons you learned, and pretty fun experience.
Yeah. So Kansas Wesleyan, then you, I guess we say, branch out on your own. You go to Angelo. How was that?
You know, really enjoyed the time coaching ball down in Texas. I was down there for 8 years. You know, got my bachelor's degree, knew I wanted to coach, but I didn't want to get right into grad school. I wanted to take a little bit of time. My wife and I got married. Ended up having our first kid during that, you know, those 2 years there in Salina coaching at KW, and then knew at some point wanted to go back to school, you know, and get my master's degree.
Gotcha.
Just kind of part of that process. And so was really kind of picky, you know, on those GA jobs, like looking to, hey, I want to get, you know, with a guy that's been in a good program, get to a good spot. And, you know, you kind of have this checklist of jobs that you want to go try to get. And so trying to find connections, was fortunate enough to Will Wagner, who was at Northwest Missouri State, you know, coming from a powerhouse D2 program. Was fortunate enough to know some guys that knew some guys. And that was actually through my time at Kansas Wesleyan, and got my foot in the door for an interview down there. And I remember making the 10, 11-hour drive with my wife and 6-month-old daughter to San Angelo, Texas, and, you know, about 100 miles north of the Mexican border. And went well. And, you know, I told him before I left, I said, hey, I got another interview like 100 miles south of the Canadian border here in a couple days. So if you know something right away, let me know, and I'm going to skip that drive. But luckily, you know, got a phone call from him, got offered the job, and, you know, really just as a football coach, getting down in Texas was a big deal, let alone, you know.
You think it helped you?
Yeah, without a doubt. I mean, just I think the recruiting aspect of being down there, I recruited DFW and had a lot of familiarity with that, and really competitive recruiting. The football is super competitive. You know, a lot of those schools have a ton of resources that you need to be successful. And, you know, going in with a brand new staff and flipping a culture and kind of getting to know the processes of that was super beneficial, but definitely helped me, you know, being at the 4-year level, you know, seeing how it was done. You know, even though I played D2 ball, you know, coached and played NAIA ball, like being involved in that coaching realm of the D2, there was a lot to it, you know. And
a lot of moving parts.
Without a doubt. Like, and as a GA going down there, you know, you got to recruit, you got to coach your own position. And, you know, I was going in and coaching tight ends my first year as a GA, and I knew the run game, but I didn't know it well enough to coach it really.
Yeah.
And so luckily I had some really good tight ends that were fifth-year seniors, and they coached me up early in camp.
Yeah.
And then you catch on, but it made me learn the run game to a point where, as a quarterback receiver skill guy,
sense, yeah.
like, okay, now I get the technique of it, and I understand the schematics and the changes and the intricacies with it, and then you're able to kind of spend some more time putting the whole picture together. And that way, when you get those coordinating opportunities, which is what I ended up doing the last 3 years down there, moving back over to quarterbacks and coordinating, you felt like you were more ready for it because you understood the big picture of it.
Before we move on to Hutch, do you ever call the bat phone, call your dad up and bounce ideas off of him?
Yeah, definitely, especially early on in the career, and just whether it was job opportunities that present themselves, or whether it's just like, just thoughts. And he's still involved, I mean, he's retired from coaching ball, but he's here in Hutch a lot, watching the games,
Gotcha.
Watch practices on Huddle, and just those little interactions and feedbacks, whether it's recruiting stuff or knowing guys, that kind of deal is always beneficial. So,
gotcha. So you come to Hutch, and you're the coordinator, and then the head coach. What
happened fast?
That's
happened fast.
That's what I'm getting to. So I guess my question is, with the success that Coach Rhodes had, and changing this program, building this program from Gooch also, but turning it around and bringing it to a winning culture, and with the community, the boosters, the administration, what was that pressure? Was that step, how was it stepping into those shoes of I got to keep this thing rolling, I got to keep it going? What were your thoughts, or what was the anticipation factor in this shorter period of time? Because it's not like you really want to say, no, I'm not ready. You want to take the opportunity, but I know what was your thought process during that?
I mean, it was intimidating a little bit, just because of what Hutch had been, and what you expected it to continue to be, and just the internal pressure that you put on yourself is obviously, somewhat intimidating. But yeah, I mean, when I came up here, I didn't come up here to be the head coach. I came up here to be the offense coordinator for Coach Rhodes, and then 8 months later, that script, is flipped. But I also knew, it was an opportunity of a lifetime because of the resources, because of the success that the program's had. I mean, if I wasn't here, it would have been a lot harder to get a job like this, So it happened a lot, faster, or, if it would have happened at all, I don't know. But with Rhodey leaving and going, and the opportunity that he had, my big deal is I just wanted to stay here and continue to be a part of it.
Yeah.
And, was fortunate enough to get the job and be in this role. And like I said, it was intimidating, to an extent where you just wanted to make sure you kept this thing rolling. Mm-hmm. But there's so many good people around too that you knew there was resources. Yeah. And so I think the biggest thing is just being willing to listen and lean on the people that have done it. Yeah. Learn from the people that have came before you and how they did things. And I didn't get a chance to learn it all from Rhodey because we weren't together long enough. But I'd picked up enough to understand the why behind it, and I'd coached with enough guys that have been here, and been successful here, in whether it's coordinating roles, position roles, recruiting roles, that you try to learn a little bit from everybody. And then as you're building this thing and moving it forward, making sure you're asking the right questions when you need, when you need some direction. Yeah, Hutch, people say Kansas, but it's a great place. It's a great city. The support staff, you got Dr. File, you got Aaron Ellis, who's a saving grace here. It's so many people. Even the cafeteria, everybody's here and believes in all the programs, and it's really helpful, and that's one of the parts of success that that helps out here. Yeah, and they want you to be successful. You go some places and there's hesitation on like, oh, can we do this or that? You know, this
Yeah.
would help our program. And it's not like that here. People are always looking for ways to make it better, and not just on campus, but in the community.
Yes.
But I think that's a testament to a lot of the guys that have came through here beforehand, you know, is they're able to get that thing established. I mean,
Yeah.
Coach Rhodes and Coach Gooch, the things they done throughout, you know, that time to get it established, and then you're just trying to carry on those traditions. And I think anytime you're in a leadership role, you try to figure out ways to elevate it. But I mean, there's so many good things with the setup that how it, you know, where it was.
Yeah.
It was kind of like getting the keys tossed to you, you know, to a Ferrari and saying, don't wreck it, you know, and that's, I've made that comment a couple of times, but that's kind of how it felt, you know, early on.
Yeah.
But when that thing's going fast, and you can let it get out of control as well if you can't manage it. So luckily we had some great coaches, you know, on staff, and we were able to get a good group of guys that had been here, had a lot of experiences here at Hutch, even longer than me. And then, just like I said, the resources and learning from those guys that came ahead of us and being willing to listen.
Tell me how you, I mean, lean on your staff. I you know, I worked with Kraus, I worked with Cross, I worked with Hawk. You got a great staff. Like, you guys are freaking good.
Yeah,
you know,
it's big time. I think number one is like they're all good men, you know, and they're doing it for the right reasons. Like, you know, all 10 guys on the staff they're doing it for the right reasons. They want to see these guys develop, and they understand, you know, the avenue that Hutch can be for so many different people. They push them, you know, but there's a lot of respect involved in that as well, you know, and they're not just in it to make the next jump or win in a short amount of time and move on. They're guys that are in it because they love coaching ball. They love developing guys and seeing them mature, you know, and we tell our players all the time, like, hey, we're going to be extremely honest with you, you know, and not sugarcoat anything, but like there's also got to be that relationship to where you can have those real conversations with
trust
them.
in it,
You know, they know you're coming from a good spot.
Got you.
And, you know, a lot of that stuff's learned just from being around it. I mean, even sitting in here with you in the weight room when you're running it, like, how many real conversations did you have with guys? There was no sugarcoating it, you know, but they knew the things that you were asking them to do were for their benefit. You know, and we all have goals. You know, as a coach, hey, we got goals to go win. You know, and put the guys in the right positions. And these guys here, they have goals. They want to win. They want to be successful, but they're also working for that next level opportunity. You know, and when you can look them in the eye and say, hey, this is how it's done at that next stop, and they believe you and they understand because we've done it for so long here that there's a lot of value in that.
What and I guess this is a singular question. What was your biggest transition from that 4-year level and then coming to the 2-year JUCO level? Whether it was good or bad? Yeah,
you know, kind of both sides of it, I guess, is like, you know, you go from the 4-year level to junior college and you kind of think, okay, I only got these guys for a short amount of time. How much offense are we going to be able to install? How much defense can they handle? And, you know, early on kind of figured out that, man, football is football. And, like, you can throw a lot at these dudes and they can handle it, you know, and really, as we've evolved offensively here and defensively, I think we've thrown more at our guys, you know, here at the 2-year level than I did even at the 4-year level at times. Part of it's, hey, really, really good athletes and they're football players, you know, and they love that aspect of it. And, you know, if you throw it at them, you can spend the time to coach them and develop them. You know, sometimes there's more visual learners. You got to spend more time developing on the field or taking time to walk through and things like that. So, but that's anywhere, is just trying to figure out what kind of learner they are and then be that kind of teacher, you know. I think more than anything, like the biggest difference that I experienced as a coach was like at the 4-year level, you had some GAs, you know, and you had, you know, 4, 5, 6 guys that were in grad school, and you had your staff and you had GAs and then you had your student assistants. And I think here at the junior college, I mean, you don't have those grad students enrolled, and so
Yeah.
we'll get some really good student managers, student coaches that can help us out on all those things. But a lot of that stuff falls onto your lap as a full-time coach.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm the one. We're the ones loading the bus. We're the ones that are
Yeah.
doing all the equipment checkout and organizing
Passing
the
out
video,
the meals and
passing out the meals. So there's just so many of those little things that you got to do behind the scenes a little bit and you still want to coach ball at a high level, and you still want to make sure you're prepping those guys.
Yeah.
Maybe more involved academically with them on a daily basis, of study halls, tutoring, getting all that stuff set up. We lean on Miss Ellis quite a bit, and she does a great job with our players, but she's one person, and so when you got a team of 110, 115 in the fall, and you got to support them all the right way academically. There's got to be a plan in place, and at the 4-year level, you didn't always have to spend that amount of time with those guys on the academic side.
Yeah, more resources out there.
And so time management was probably the biggest adjustment, when you're transitioning from that 4-year level to 2-year level, and you're having to juggle maybe a few more hats. But the ball part was really fun, and definitely, has made me a better coach.
Yeah.
I think being in this league, when you're going against really talented teams, makes you a better ball coach.
Yeah.
You're going against sometimes some coaches that aren't afraid to try some things out that you don't see, and it's just non-traditional because they got to, they have to. And so now, when you're on the opposite side of that, game planning it, and you got to have some answers for it. So that challenges you on its own.
And I'm taking my hat off to you because I went through it. And it's like the recruiting cycle. It's so fast. It's so many. And then I would hear about 4-year coaches, D1 coaches, like, oh yeah, I got to recruit 7 guys. Oh really? I'm recruiting 70. And it's like, it's kind of like a fraternity with a hidden code if you're a coach, because it's, you do more than the job description, and it's a joyful thing if you can go through it and get through it, to be a junior college coach, because it seems like when you get to the next level, it's like, oh, I had to do this, and this, and this. Like this is easy, like you feel that same sentiment.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, and not only are we doing it, where you're recruiting 50 kids a year because you're losing half your roster, but you're also trying to help these 50 kids you got move on.
Yeah.
And so the flip side of that is, hey, we're trying to get these guys out. We're also trying to bring in a new crew to replace it. And, I mean, there's just so much going on, especially when it comes to the recruiting cycle.
Yeah.
It's pretty special when you figure out how to manage it. And I think, again, it all goes back to just making sure you got the right staff around you. You can't do it all, as a head coach or a position coach or a coordinator. You got to rely, on other guys on the staff. And so everybody's got roles that they're good at, and being able to, just rely on them to get those jobs done is huge. That way, each coach can spend the time they need to coaching their position, recruiting their position, recruiting their areas, and all this other stuff. You just got to have a good crew of guys. And, like I said at the beginning, been very fortunate to have a good crew, really from day one, stepping on campus as the head coach till now.
What's a success story or something that you feel good about? Like, there's a couple players that are dear to me that I still talk to them to this day. Is there anybody that you've seen their growth come through here or another school or wherever that went on, whether they went to the NFL, whether they went to college, whether they're a doctor, lawyer, they sell cars? Is there anybody that is close to your heart as a player that you can think of?
Want to save your HOA money on your home services while enjoying the benefits of living in a community? PIN Plus, the ultimate platform that brings neighbors together under one powerful concept: power in numbers. Communities can now negotiate group discounted pricing on essential home services, trash, pest control, pool maintenance, and so much more, all at unbeatable rates. Transform your home service experience today. Visit www.mypinplus.com today for more information.
All right.